What's up, guys?
Welcome.
We're back again. Slightly different setup this time. But yeah, we loved recording our first episode a lot. Mojo, you created such amazing reels. Look so high quality already. I'm amazed. And yeah, we are trying to keep this weekly schedule going. So here we are. I'm super excited for our second episode. How are you feeling, Mojo?
I'm really excited. Yeah, I think we got the ball rolling really fast. I think a lot of our friends were very surprised how quickly we knocked it out. And it was just really exciting, like for me as someone who used to, be really into film and studied film in college, to get to kind of pursue this outlet again has been really exciting to bring back for me. Yeah. So seeing that in the short form on Instagram and stuff like that has been really cool.
Hell yeah, exactly. And I mean, it only took in the end one afternoon and night.
Yeah, we did it quickly. We did it quick.
So we did.
We ripped it and honestly, we were doing this completely straight through. So one recording. So.
Yeah. Hell yeah, let's
we're doing good.
Another time.
Yeah.
We're gonna become pros in the end.
Yeah. They say if you do something 100 times, you'll get good at it, right?
Episode 100.
Yeah.
Big party.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a sick one. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And this time, we were thinking about a good topic. I think it's a topic that's close to both of our hearts. I think it's a topic we both have been thinking about, also job related. I know it's a topic you also have studied about even.
Yeah, so I mean, I think right where we are in the place in our life right now, it's a lot of just questioning, what paths do we want to take? Who are we as people? What do we want to do for fun? What do we do in our pastimes? What do we do as hobbies? What do we do as a career? We're in our mid-20s right now, so there's a lot of just thinking. And I think this is always going to be the case. We're always going to be wondering who we are and what we'll be doing. Mm-hmm. But I think more than ever, we're really in that transitional period right now. So we're thinking just who we are.
Yeah. It's really good to have questions.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have all the answers, you're too late. So, yeah. It's a topic about how life can be very multifaceted. I feel mm-hmm. Society and maybe your education, maybe your job can try to put you into one box, but I think we've been discussing that doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, so we decided to dive into living a portfolio life, and this term was coined by Charles Handy, which I'm going to read you guys the exact description. So a portfolio life is one composed of multiple roles. This can be creative, professional, personal. It's instead of one career or title, you're multiple, right? And that can be overwhelming and it can be a lot of things. But I think what really drew us to this topic was that me and Nick are both those types of people. We're really multifaceted. We're really interested in a lot of different things and a lot of hobbies. And I think, it's kind of, is it creative? Is it chaos? Is it freedom, or should it be more structured? And I think, it's something to really ponder with that topic as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be indeed those different actions you take. It can be the different personalities you almost switch between. When, for example, switching between your job or switching between your personal life. And it's something that indeed we can all learn a lot about, trying to define those different facets in our life better for ourselves, and also discuss and help our friends define them for them. So yeah, it's a topic that's sparked out of our personal stories, I think. So I wonder, Mojo, when did you really came to this realization, this one hobby or this one passion is not cutting it, or I am so intrigued by these different worlds, these different people here. When did you really notice okay, I don't want to stay in this one block? Or
yeah, I think When I was a little kid, I was a bit of a hustler. I was like, I was trying to get my family members to pay me to like do chores around the house.
What? You were paying your
Thanksgiving.
family
Yeah,
members?
so funny.
Dude.
Yeah, my mom always knew I was like a little entrepreneur, so I feel like I had that entrepreneurial side in me, like always.
Damn.
But at the same time, I was super creative. I loved writing. I loved animals. I wanted to be a writer, a marine biologist. And then when I got into college or into high school, it was like film was my focus. But I also really liked planning events. But I didn't see that as like, my career, which it's ironic because now that's what I do for a living is I plan events. So it's like you kind of see those things in your childhood that like early on inspire you. And I think when you're a kid, you're trying so many different things. You're doing clubs, you're doing sports, and you're like trying to figure out what sticks. And normally a few do, like a few core ones, but I felt like I was literally all over the place. Like I had so many different interests. So deciding what to do in college was really hard. And I think a lot of people just kind of choose business, like a general base type of thing. But I think I started to realize I was this type of person in high school.
High school, yeah. Also like leading up to the choice for which college to study, maybe that you started to notice it more clearly, which is very interesting, yeah, because like, I mean, university, which choice to pick there, which studies, which job eventually you'll end up in. Society indeed makes it look like that is a box you're choosing and a career path you're sticking with, which I think nowadays has changed a lot, which we'll come back on later.
It's also intimidating to feel like
intimidating,
when you're 17, 18, you have to make that big of a choice and then you're just like stuck in it. Like maybe medical, right? Or like being a lawyer and you have to go to school for so long. Exactly. So I think sometimes people kind of take a shorter route because they're so intimidated by that long term. Like I know I was like, I'm going to change. What if I don't like this thing in 8 years, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's like a very relevant challenge or like fear a lot of people have, which is also why I think like this episode is super interesting.
What about you?
So about me, so I am a software engineer. I code during my work hours, maybe like 60 hours a week, more than 60 hours a week. And while I definitely enjoy coding and I get a lot of like satisfaction of actually building stuff people use, seeing the short feedback loop there, and learning also along the way, and actually like clearly contributing to a project. I noticed very early on as well that this wasn't enough for me, like that Interesting. That I didn't get like a fulfillment out of my job outside of out of just my job. I also felt that I needed more social connection and more social activities and stimulation, which I wasn't getting from my job, because I mean, as a coder, as a programmer, you basically can do all of your work by yourself. Of course you have meetings, of course you have product manager and a designer, but most of the time we try to minimize meetings to optimize focus work. So yeah, I was definitely lacking some social interaction in my job there, because I love like talking to people, I love like learning more about people, interacting with them, and I wasn't getting that from my job. So I think that lack there, or that desire, slowly pushed me towards finding a new hobby, and that's indeed where I was very lucky to stumble upon dancing. And then now I feel like dancing has become like an integral part of my life. I do it every weekend. I go to as many classes as I can. Lately again, and yeah, I couldn't see, my life would be vastly different without it. It's also defined my group of friends. It's also defined the people I meet. And coming back to like the multi-potential life or the portfolio life there, I also noticed that I have like 2 different personalities maybe. So when I'm dancing, when I'm having fun there, I love to be like a social butterfly, goofy, making all kinds of jokes, like being very unserious, while work often also demands to be more serious and to really think ahead, to really know what you're talking about, to really come prepared, analytical. So I do notice like a different side of myself when working.
It's interesting you say that you have like these two sides, because I mean, I also work in a corporate office, but I work in a really creative realm. Like I plan, EDM events and I get to market them, and it's such a creative field. But then when I'm at work, I feel like I'm a lot more serious. I'm super focused. I'm honed in, right? But then when I'm out at a show with those same people, maybe from work, I feel like I'm super vibrant. It's completely different. And it's interesting, like, can you have both of those personalities, like, in one, setting? And I think that that's a really big shift in modern day society right now, where people are choosing careers where it's like becoming a TikTok influencer or social media person or a DJ. And it's like they kind of get to have that full scope of all of their different personalities maybe in one.
Right.
And like the digital realm has completely changed the landscape for like getting to be this multifaceted personality in so many different ways too.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of positives and negatives surrounding that topic, I feel like. Positives, I mean, I feel like for me, it's hard to like completely separate both personalities, and I wish and I aim to bring that goofiness, that unseriousness, for example, more to my life at work as well, because that's easier, that's more fun. But then indeed, like you were talking about these like social media personalities, these DJs maybe, I can also imagine that in there, I know about a couple of DJs, for example, whose brand is almost like a certain personality. So like to what extent can they then mix in their other personalities, or do they have to stay consistent to this one personality that help them grow to who they are?
Yeah. I feel like I have a lot of friends that they work in tech or they work in medical or sales, and they're like, I have a cushy job, it's good, it's great benefits, good pay, but I like to go to shows on the weekend, or I like to go out in nature on the weekend. And it's like this divide of like their passion and what pays the bills. And I think now more than ever, people are starting to really dive into pursuing passions as a career. And I think that a lot of those people are these, multi-potentialites, which is a term you mentioned earlier. And so, interestingly enough, when I was in high school and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, I was like, I just feel all over the place. Like, I feel like such a chaotic person. I'm interested in so many different things. It was like overwhelming, so overwhelming that I started doing research into it. I was like, are there other people like me? I feel crazy. And it was 2015 or 2016, I found this TED Talk by someone named Emily.
Emily Webnick.
Yeah, Emily Webnick. Okay, that's it. And yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful TED Talk. And they coined the term multi-potentialite. And again, it was this type of person that just, they feel like they have multiple different potentials. They have big things that they're really, really interested in that they could see as being a career in so many different aspects. And at the time I was 17, I didn't know what to do with that information, and I chose film. But I also did media and entrepreneurship, so it was like kind of a mix, like still kind of showing those things within myself. But now as an adult living in New York City and immersed in so many different things and so much diversity, I feel like I'm really starting to hone in on, okay, I'm starting this business or I'm starting this podcast while also having my full-time job. And then I'm building this community type thing. And it's like, can be overwhelming because you're trying to do so many things. And I feel like more now than ever, people are trying to combine them into one, avenue.
Yeah, so I think it's a really good point there. How do you like manage all these different facets to your life? How do you simplify leading so many different lives at once? And And yeah, there's definitely no clear-cut answer, but I think that's definitely something we want to touch on this episode. Yeah, we're touching on like portfolio life, multi-potential life. Why do you think this topic is so relevant nowadays? Are there things in this time period that stand out, that have changed during the years, that you think make this more relevant now than, for example, 20 years ago? How do you think about that?
Well, there's been a lot of research being done right now, I think, especially in the workplace, right? Like, I did some research that LinkedIn actually did a study in 2022, and they found that 71% of Gen Z actually identify as multi-hyphenates. So this could be like
71%.
71%. That's a lot of people.
Damn.
So it could be like DJ slash social media manager slash cat
Slash podcaster.
watcher slash podcaster, right? And it's just like, like I think it's not only the digital landscape, like I said, that's providing so much opportunity to pursue all those things, but people are diving fully into it, like making it, I can do 10 different things.
Yeah.
But I guess are people becoming more of this like multi-potentialite, hyphenate, generalist
Yes.
because of the times?
Yes, definitely, for sure. It's also just only now or only recently become possible and become doable to actually like start doing so many different things at once. Previously, if you were starting a new job or if you were trying to make money as a DJ, you have to go through so many loopholes. You have to go in person here, you have to go in person there, you have to learn this, you have to talk to that person. Nowadays, with this online world, with how easy it has become to become like a freelancer, you can find gigs on like so many different websites. You can get paid for like small side projects in your weekends, for example. All of that wasn't possible in the past. And I mean, now in the past 3 years, it's become multiplied and become like emphasized so much more, even with like the AI boom. It has become so much easier, so much more convenient, so much more, well, clear how to learn like a new hobby, how to learn a new passion.
Yeah, you're right. Like YouTube, there's so many avenues to even learn.
Yeah. How to, if I want to become a DJ, first thing I'll do is check YouTube, talk to ChatGPT, like, hey, what are the what are the different steps here I need to take?
Seeing the ChatGPT history, that's
Yeah.
scary. I wonder how many people are like looking up things daily to learn how to do things.
Definitely, and it's amazing. I love it. Like, I mean, even the startup I co-founded in 2024. Only reason I felt confident to do that and felt enabled to do that was ChatGPT, was having that constant backbone, that constant, well, twin almost I could talk to, but twin that is way smarter than me.
Yeah.
And I mean, having that guidance at your constant disposal and so quickly, so rapidly, is such a big enabler in this multifaceted life where indeed people are able to explore more outside of their working hours.
I think it's a really traditional mindset to feel like you have to have one successful path.
Yeah.
Or one avenue that you take, whether in your career or maybe like a deep passion, like playing piano. I have to be really good at this one instrument. I have to spend all my time on this one instrument to be really good. Right. Or becoming a CEO or, just a professional in your career. I think it's a very, older mindset to think that in order to be successful, you have to choose one path, right?
Mm-hmm. Why is that? I mean, if I look at my parents, so for example, in my 3 years that I'm now working, actually 5 years, I have changed jobs quite a bit already. Mm-hmm. And my parents...
Are they different industries?
No, same industry.
Okay.
All in tech. But like my parents, they get worried about that. They're like, oh, both of us, like we worked for like 20 years, 25 years with the same company.
Wow.
Which is very standard for their time period, which is only like 25 years apart. But still, like, it has changed so much.
It's
Well,
interesting
the
you say
general
that.
consensus as to how easy it is to find a new job, to find a new gig, to find something that fits you. I think it just used to be so much harder. Like, you had to go physically to all these offices to apply in person. There wasn't like a clear database online with all the opportunities. It was so much more difficult. Like, how did they even do it? Like, newspapers? All the vacancies in newspapers, and then you had to read the newspaper and find out
Yeah,
good
I mean,
employers.
it's just interesting you say that because I think about my parents. I'm like, wow, like my mom worked somewhere for like 10, 15 years too. My dad's worked at the same place since I was born. So
Yeah.
that's 26 years. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And like this idea of retiring with the same company. I mean, honestly, like if you really think about it, the government was like, you got to retire. You got to
Retire.
stay. You got to stay at this company for this amount of time till you're 65. You know, it's all a planned thing that someone else kind of decided for us, you know, like you have to stay here till 65 and then you'll get this paycheck. When it's like things are
Right.
changing, people are retiring super early
Right.
because they're finding ways to make income at a more rapid pace, you know, like, and maybe doing those different avenues or getting you know, passive income by doing Amazon affiliates or, you know, stuff like that. It's crazy.
There you go.
So much social media, like monetization and stuff like that.
Developing a skill set on the side, like you mentioned, Amazon
Affiliates. Yeah.
That's indeed like a skill set that they grew and that's earning them a wage outside of their working hours. And I feel that, well, in the past, indeed, developing a skill set took a lot more in-person time, took a lot more like knowledge sharing with your colleagues. Wasn't something you could just start in your own online. So indeed, they felt that once you grew like a certain skill set within a certain company, that you couldn't just transfer that to a new job, to a new employer. And I think that has changed immensely. And now with ChatGPT, you can quickly grow into, like, for example, even a new coding language if you're talking about tech. But yeah, I think it's a very, very relevant topic.
I think that there's also a lot of like myths about, you know, being this type of person that is interested in so many different things, like the fear of not being good enough, right? Or that you're going to pursue so many different things that you won't really have a focus or you won't be a professional at it, right? But there's a quote that I love, jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one, right? So like it's an interesting thing to think about because, right, when you're applying to college, they expect you to be this well-rounded person who did student council and did this and volunteered and did sports, blah, blah, blah. And like, you maybe maintain that a little bit in college, but really it's just kind of like a meter for them to say, okay, how much dedication and commitment does this person have to just following through with something? I think that's what that meter is, what that they're measuring, like, will they be a good student when they come to this university? But I think now as an adult, you know, like we've been saying, more than ever, people are pursuing so many different passions. And I think that's a really good thing. I think, you know, David Epstein wrote a book called The Range about this idea of generalists. And he describes how actually being a generalist, someone who has a bunch of different general interests, actually makes you a little bit more of a better, you know, performer because you're more adaptable. You know, you can work under more high intense environments. You also have a really wide range of skills and interests, which, you know, is like the thing that they want when you're starting early on in high school and whatnot, but then maybe gets lost in the resumes a little bit. And sometimes people want you to hyper focus on one thing. But I think now more than ever, it's starting to become important to be, you know, well-rounded again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's many factors in the whole story. I think also something that's very important to note on here is, well, there's also many different success metrics. Like, what is it you're striving for? I can imagine, for example, an investment banker at Goldman Sachs who wants to become a director there. Maybe better for that person to indeed stay siloed, like really focus on their trading, on their job, don't take up too many distractions almost. But then if your passion or your goal is to, well, for example, live a diverse life, a life full of, well, people, full of interesting stories, full of growth, then maybe a more generalist approach is suited. Because I definitely do think like taking the more generalist approach, you just open your surface area so much more. That way you will also define yourself better and learn at a way quicker pace what it actually is that brings you joy, that actually brings you most energy.
So joy and energy, right? I think
Yeah.
you said something really interesting. You know, like, yes, if you have one career goal and it's to get to the top, you're probably going to silo yourself.
Right.
But I think that shows a really big cultural shift. Like, there are still a lot of those people. But how many investment bankers do you know have joy and energy that aren't burnt, that really love their job, they're really happy? Maybe there are some. I don't know many. And I know a lot of people that did follow that career path and they switched. They switched to do something that is something that they're either creating or they get to do multiple different passions. And I think that's showing a really big cultural shift in society right now of like people truly wanting to be happy, especially in America, right? Like there is this whole, you know, American dream concept, but like we were saying earlier, it's you work till you're 65, then you retire, and that's the government giving you blah, 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 and you're making baseline income, whatever. But I think more than ever with the digital realm that we have, people are like, I can do whatever I want. I can follow a million different passions. Which one's going to make me happy?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not easy to like, well, have the courage to like follow all these million different paths. Like I think for a lot of people, staying in that, well, continuing a single trajectory, a single pathway is also some comfortability, some stability that it brings them, which is very understandable, which is of course necessary also to have some stability. So it's not an easy pathway.
Do you think you have to be
walk.
like a little bit of a adrenaline junkie or like
Adrenaline junkie? To some degree, right? You
have
have
it's
to
a
be
big risk.
You have to be somehow like pulled towards the unknown. Like you have to have the willingness to start something new, to like learn something new, to move outside of what you have been doing for, I don't know, years or at least a longer period of time. You're taking on a risk, and well, I personally love and I think it's so important to take on risks. Because like by taking on risks, you definitely increase your growth, the speed at which you get to know yourself, at which you improve in whatever you're doing, at which you find out where to best invest your time. But yeah, people definitely have a different level or a different limit as to how much risk they're willing to take on, and there's many factors that come into play. If for example you have, well, a family to feed at home and stuff, of course you will have to have more stability than when you're just out there on your own, no accountability anywhere. You have more room to take on risks. So yeah, I mean, those are very, very understandable fears and stuff, but then again, like we were talking about it, now more than ever it has become easier to combine well these new risks and these new challenges you're taking on. Prime example I'm thinking about here, which I think most of our listeners will also know, I think, is John Summit. Or he's definitely like up there. He had always
DJ.
Accountant turned DJ. He used to like DJ, I guess, his whole evening or nights. Like he used to do it for so many hours, while still continuing his stable job, generating that stable income.
So maybe it's about like starting to do is like what you can with your time, pursuing a bunch of different things. And then once you're ready to take that leap of faith and you feel more confident in your skill set, actually acting on it.
Yeah.
I think another good example of someone who is a multi-potentialite is Donald Glover.
Oh, yeah.
Childish Gambino. So he's in... what show is that? Do you know what show he's in?
I saw that he also
Rec?
does voice overs for Lion King and stuff, but
Does he?
yeah.
He's also an actor, producer, director, rapper. He does so many things, and it's really cool when you see these celebrities, showing that side of themselves. They have. You'd like to think that they probably had the funding to do that. When they actually act to show who they are in that capacity, all those different facets of their personality and their interests. It's really cool, and it's inspiring to see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really cool examples out there. Another group of people, which I see this very clearly with, and which inspires me a lot actually to grow more and to that extent, which you, I think, might find quite funny, or I will like to hear, I think, are the burners.
Okay.
So...
No, you're right, yeah.
In Burning Man, so basically everybody you talk to there, well, they have their jobs, their 9-to-5s, or their entrepreneurial lives outside of Burning Man. But with the senior burners, you will see that all of them, they all invest so much time and also get so much rewarding energy and fulfillment out of creating and building a camp and a art car throughout the year, and really gathering with their camp, gathering with their crew to prepare and to make Burning Man as special as it can be. And it can't be neglected or undervalued how much effort that requires. You have to drive somewhere, you have to get all the logistics in order, you have to buy so much stuff, you have to store so much stuff. It takes a lot of agency, and the burners, well, the senior burners, they all share that.
The veterans.
And the veterans.
Well, okay, so you saying that, it got me thinking about, those are really creative people. Yes. But I know so many burners that are also lawyers, or they do work in finance. And I'm okay, well, that's kind of analytical leaning. And I'm wondering now, maybe these people who have a very big life portfolio, they're kind of they have that duality of being analytical and creative.
Duality, yeah.
Right? Maybe that's a big factor of it too.
Yeah, analytical, creative, and high agency. They love to take action. They love to be efficient with their time. So if I look back to my startup journey, I told myself before starting the startup that I would vastly limit and reduce the amount of downtime spent on social media, spent on series, spent on stuff that didn't compound, that didn't help me grow. I would cut all of that and reduce, I don't know, my Instagram time to 30 minutes a day. Just stop series as a whole, and really be very intentional and very conscious about where I invest my time, and really simplify that. And for myself, for example, I made my lists to sacrifice, to keep,
Are you a list
to
person?
gain. I'm a list person.
I'm a list person too.
Definitely. Yeah, that was the one thing I did before jumping in the whole startup story. I just had to make my lists, make it very simple in my head. What am I willing to sacrifice? What do I want to keep? What do I want to gain from this? And then it all became very simple. I just wanted two things, and that's to keep dancing, to stay in Lisbon, which is part of the dancing, and to grow through that startup. So basically my life became two things, dancing and startup. And that allowed me to take on the whole very high risk, very high uncertainty new chapter. That in my head, I kept everything very simple. I limited outside distractions. I said no to things that didn't amount to the startup. And then I mean, next to keeping it simple, you also have to define for yourself, like, where do I put time in now versus later.
So, I mean, you saying all this got me thinking, you know, like I think that there's a lot of boundary setting.
Boundary setting,
with
yeah.
your time management, with maybe the type of people you spend your time with. Like, are these people really people who soul align with me and share the same passions of me as me and are going to get me to where will make me happiest, right?
Right.
And I think for me, something that was really interesting, like how I ended up where I am now, like I have my dream job that I wanted when I was in college. I'm very lucky. I'm very grateful. But that came with, you know, I was getting my master's during the pandemic, which is crazy. And I was trying to work in live events. And I was like, how the hell am I going to work in live events now that they're not happening?
Oh, shit.
And so I reached out to a brewery. I started doing marketing for them. So I had like a full-time job during the pandemic doing marketing, social media management, starting doing that. But then I started my own things. I started my own promotional company. I started doing this live stream so that we could still, you know, do events and meet people in the industry in a safe way. And it was like taking that initiative and using all of that downtime, all of that free time to maximize, right? And again, like you, I made lists, okay? So like kind of like building blocks. Like I need to knock off each thing. Like a bigger picture may seem really intimidating, but once you start checking each thing, it's like a domino effect. You're getting slowly closer to the finish line and to the bigger picture. And I mean, I really agree with your sentiment that time management is such a big part of that, of like being able to live this life of pursuing so many different things.
Yeah, write down your priorities. Make sure you really make it clear in your head, like, okay, this is high priority. This can wait until next month. This I'll just have to scrap. And you have to be quite ruthless there sometimes, like if you want to start something new. With the startup, for example, I remember really saying, okay, these next 3 months I'm doing just my startup, and I quit all my other activities. I flew back to Belgium. I had to leave my dancing family in Lisbon behind, and I had to, well, lock in and just code for like 2-3 months until coding and programming didn't really become the bottleneck anymore of the startup, until we had like a first minimum viable product that indeed my co-founders were able to sell to our first clients. And then that started creating more opening, more space, more time for me to start prioritizing dancing again. So you really have to make it very clear for yourself, like, okay, how much time do I have and how much time can I invest in this hobby versus in that hobby versus in this side project. And we all in the end have the same amount of hours, the same amount of minutes in our day, and there's so many people doing so many cool things, inspiring things. So we can try to learn from each other, like, hey.
I saw this quote on Instagram the other day that I shared it on my story. You probably saw it. It was Henry David Thoreau, and he said the price you pay for anything is the time it takes,
right,
or the time you exchange for it.
Oh, very
and
relevant.
It hit. I was like, wow, you know, like, sure, this thing may cost a lot of money, but I worked for that money, you know, like I'm putting that, that time into it. And that is one thing that, like, the currency is so valuable, but we all have the same amount of it. I mean, no, we don't all live the same amount of time, but you know, we're all experiencing the same time in the moment. And we could be the richest person in the world, but maybe we're not happy. And like those things that we're deciding to do with our day, every life, whether it's a job we don't like, you know, that is us exchanging our biggest currency.
Right. Yeah. Time. Yeah. No. Exactly. Our time is limited, which is very cool, which is inspiring. And you have to realize that, and you have to make the most out of your days, and try to look for those compounding things, those things that will indeed bring you closer to your goals and to your true self. That's where we go back to prioritization and write stuff down. I think writing is a very big unlock there. I catch myself sometimes not doing it as consistently,
Like
as I would
writing,
like to.
like a reflective,
Reflective.
like journal entry, or
Yes,
like making lists.
both.
Yeah.
Ideally, you start in the morning, write down with what you want to get on with your main priorities or questions for the day, and then you reflect in the evening. I think on how you succeeded there and where you want to go next. I think that would be the ideal state for me. But I do notice that I find it quite difficult.
So it's like a
myself.
lot of structure, I feel
lot of
like, for you.
structure.
I try to be so structured. I make my list, but then I end up being chaotic. Like, I
Yeah.
think I'm, like, definitely,
Yeah.
like, a little ADD or something.
Yeah.
It's just, like, creative chaos.
Right,
Or
creative
organized,
chaos.
or, you know, disorganized structure.
Which
I feel like,
Yeah.
you know?
You can have a lot of that. Like for me, what I now noticed that helps me a lot is like voice notes. I really started like
Voice
taking more
notes.
voice notes, just putting one title above the voice note about like what I was talking about, and then just also talking to your phone. Like it helps you structure the thought in your brain better. But yeah, chaos is definitely a factor or a part of a multi-portfolio life. Which also, I have this one friend in Lisbon, and we had a very long / deep / cool conversation about this. He struggles with this a lot. Like he's doing so many different things. It's really inspiring. But at the same time, he's also like a perfectionist. So he's doing all these things. He has his own creative agency. He does a lot of like video storytelling, makes like the coolest videos really. He's a painter. He really is a very
he's
talented
a
painter.
multi-potentialite.
He's
For
definitely
sure. I feel like a lot of our friends are. That makes sense.
He's like riding sick mountain bikes through the streets of Lisbon, like on the stairs, and I'm like, what the fuck? That's so dangerous, dude. He's like literally doing everything. He's also a dancer. I met him through dancing. We connected there, and I actually showed up. So here's the opposite side of the coin, right? So since we connected so well, we get along so well, like we're really good friends, and very quickly, we also decided to record a podcast episode together. So we recorded the episode. I made time for it in like one of my last days in Lisbon, before going back to Belgium and then the US. And basically, we recorded the episode, but none of it ever launched. Because that's the opposite side of the coin. He takes on so many projects and he does so many things, while at the same time being a perfectionist, that often many of these projects and many of these ideas slip through the cracks and never make it into reality, or he just becomes inspired or intrigued or curious about something else before he can really like finish.
I'm the same way sometimes. You know, maybe that's the con of it, is like, I remember being a kid and I'd always write and I'd write books, but I could never finish one. I was like, I want to be a writer, but I'd be so shit at it because I would never finish the book. And I still struggle with that. I feel like I get so excited about so many different projects. Like my roommate, she knows. I'll be like, let's do this. She'll be like, you're still working on the last thing, dude. Like, calm down. But I'm curious if you're this way. I think I'm an extremist. So I wonder if that's part of this, you know, persona of being a multi-potentialite, is I get so excited about something. Like this winter, I really wanted to learn how to snowboard.
Right.
I went to this... Yeah, I know. And I went to this indoor hill in New Jersey, which is super cool. It's called Big Snow. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's in a mall in Jersey. And so you can go snowboard there for 2 hours at a time. And it's great for beginners or if you just want to practice in the summer. It's very cool. And so anyways, I do it. I'm like, I can't do it yet, but I really like it. Went home immediately and bought a snowboard. Those are expensive. Bought like a cute fit to wear on. I go all in because I get so excited. I'm like, this is going to be a new part of my personality. I did that with DJing. I bought like decks. I go all in. I really do. And I think it's that kind of like agency, like you said, like you get so excited, you have this ambition to go for it. And sometimes it can be hard to muster that energy to take that risk, but sometimes you just go for it. And I wonder if that's also part of it too, is having that personality that's like...
It's definitely part of it. Yeah, it's it's also what this book you can just do things talk about. I think it's Jay Yang that wrote the book. Yeah, basically he's saying you just have to try and you don't have to wait for permission or you don't have to wait for the perfect time. By just starting these things and by just exploring and figuring stuff out, you'll find out quicker if it's something you want to keep on investing time in and something you want to stick through. Like, for example, with my friend, Emiliano, shout out. I think he found out, okay, podcasting, it might not be the thing that gives me most passion. So I'm gonna reroute, gonna rewire, and gonna focus again more on what actually
Trial and error. It's really important. Yeah.
What actually is the thing that excites me most, which is cool. I love that. People try out different things, and I would only encourage it. There's so many things to explore, to try, in which we can learn, which direction we can go, by just indeed going for it, by indeed starting the podcast like we're doing now. You will find out if it's something that really lights your fire, that really is something that you want to keep on practicing, and that in the end might change your life so much. It might become a core part of who you are. It might bring you to new people. It might take you to new places and change your job.
So crazy that we're doing this topic today, and this had nothing. It's actually wild now that I'm thinking about it. So I don't really watch TV that much anymore. I go through phases in and out where I like binge a TV show or watch some movies. But last night I was just so tired from the weekend. It was Sunday, and I just decided to, just sit at home, and I put on this one random movie on Netflix, and it was called The Life List. Didn't really know what it was about. And so basically it's about this girl who she claims she's not lost and that she's happy. But her mom, is about to die, has cancer. And her mom's like, I think that you're really lost, sweetie. Like you should find your person, and you should really find love that makes you happy. And you should do things that make you happy. And you should find a job that makes you happy. Whatever, the mom dies. And in order for the girl to get her inheritance, she has to fulfill her what she calls a life list, a bucket list that she made when she was 13. And it was stuff like get a tattoo, go do stand-up, find your true love in order to get her inheritance. And it wasn't all about the money, but it was about her really finding herself. I was crying for 2 hours straight. I need you to know, it made me look so deeply into my own life. It was such a beautiful movie. And by doing all of these things that brought her back to her inner child, when she was younger, all of these little things, doing crazy it was based in New York City. She's a Brooklyn girl, doing all of these things that originally made her happy, right? That she was lying to herself about, brought her to that true love, brought her to this thing, brought her to just doing these beautiful things. And it made me reflect so much on my own life, okay, what made me most happy when I was a kid? Let's bring those things back. Let's try them again, and that's such a cool thing to dive into as an adult that sometimes we overlook when we're so overwhelmed in our day-to-day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think the whole childhood experiences, the whole childhood reflection is such an interesting topic. I feel like we can do a whole episode on that in the future. We have talked about, Rohan and I had a really good chat about this with a DJ about 50 years old. And
Rohan's a really good friend of ours.
Yeah, and he had such a cool perspective on that, so I definitely want to return to this in the future. But yeah, you're talking about this girl. She embraced multiplicity. She really embraced those different factors, that the curiosity. She really challenge your curiosity to try all these things, to figure it out. I think there we come back to indeed the whole topic or the whole agenda of our podcast, curiosity. It's again about how do you feed into or grow that inner curiosity that ends up becoming such a big part in your life.
I think a lot of times when you start to grow up and you get your career, you start to, get so wrapped up in paying the bills.
Right.
And then, eating well and then going to the gym that sometimes you don't always make enough time for all these other things that make you happy. And so I think it is really important to like sometimes, you know, what's going to create your overall happiness in the day to day is maybe not the mundane of life, but sometimes spicing it up and trying all these other things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, try all these other things indeed. And like also reflect, I would like encourage everybody at home also to like reflect on what are you already doing? What portfolio life do you already live? Like, are there hobbies you're taking that you might want to take a level further? Are there things you have depth in, but like maybe wanted to try out more? Yeah, I would say like really double click on that and try it out.
Do you think a portfolio life is sustainable in modern day America?
I think it is. I think, like we said previously, I think a portfolio life, a life as a generalist, is indeed something that might even be more sustainable than a siloed a life.
I think you kind of have to now.
Or
maybe we're just like primed because we live in New York and everyone's kind of hustling to do something or be unique. But
no, I mean there will be a huge job shift in the future with the AI revolution. Like if you go back to the industrial revolution, people there were a lot of clothes makers. Is that a word?
Yeah.
People making clothes, and then suddenly all those people they got replaced, or like 80% got replaced by factories making clothes at a way quicker pace, at a way cheaper cost. And in the end, those factories ended up like improving quality of life drastically, helping out a lot. And the same will happen with AI, but people will have to be flexible, will have to be able to adapt and this new era, I'm
hoping, like you said, like this idea of AI and like losing jobs is really scary, but like you said, back then during like urbanization and the industrial revolution can't say it. Industrial revolution. I feel like in a way it maybe sucked at first, but over time it did really make people's way of life better.
100%.
And I think kind of this whole topic that we're talking about is like AI is scary, but it's making our life easier in a lot of ways. And I think it'll start to bring us more joy and time to be able to do what we want to do.
100%. It will bring an abundance. That is the goal, at least. Like it will indeed allow employees to do the same work so much cheaper and so much more faster, that there will also be more gains and more investment and more capital deployment into new jobs, into new ventures that will employ new people again. So it should, same with like all the revolutions of the past, create new opportunities. And then, well, it's our job, or it's to our positive effect to be ready for that, and to indeed embrace the change, and embrace that multifaceted life, and also step out of your comfort zone, or out of your expertise.
And if time is such a high currency and so valuable, I know that ChatGPT saves me a lot of times. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's just going to open this door of like allowing people to feel more happy and able to live this life of being interested in so many different things. I think it's going to just culturally shift people's not only mindsets of I can do this and I can be this person, but overall make probably people happier.
100%. Yeah.
I wonder.
I think indeed like it will lead to a world where there's like less of a need for like specialists, and where the soft skills, interacting with people, talking to people, motivating people, will become more and more important, and where you really try to build something with people based on their character, based on the group fit, based on the cultural fit, and less for like the specialization they might have, because like AI will be able to help so much there.
Yeah, I think living a portfolio life is a very enriching thing, and it's less over choosing titles or practicality, right? And more connecting with your sense of being alive and doing the things that are truly fulfilling.
Yeah, yeah. Because you find out what is fulfilling to you, and you indeed get more conscious or more intentional with investing your time in those things. Because you are just increasing your chances or your view on the world. You learn more about the possibilities. Staying inside of one lane is too dangerous, as it can be blinding. It can blind you from all the other possibilities, from all the other ways of living your life, and thus like limit you. Fear there of stepping outside of that one lane is a big limiting factor, and might be like my biggest fear to be limited there and to not properly see what is out there.
Yeah, I think a really good question to ask ourselves about this whole topic is a portfolio life the path to wholeness in a world that's kind of fragmented, right? I think
Yeah, exactly.
being able, having the ability and taking the risk to do all these things that are true to your core and express all of your interests in a society that maybe has told us, you know, you need to do this and get to this ladder to be successful, and all of that societal pressure. I think just being able to be you and explore all of the different versions of you, you know, I think overall, like, this society as a whole is going to feel a lot happier if they do start to embrace this type of lifestyle.
Yeah. You break down the barriers almost that
Yeah.
society has put around certain roles or around certain jobs, personalities. And you start really, really embracing that duality or that multiality. Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of like good questions to ask yourself. So yeah, we encourage everyone to like think about what do you really want to explore, and like how multifaceted are you, and what didn't you double click on yet? Try dancing. Try dancing.
Try dancing, yeah. I guess, yeah, it's like, are there parts of yourself that are still hidden that maybe you haven't explored? Is there something you've always wanted to learn? Is there something that younger you, your inner child you used to love to do? Like, I remember I was like going through a hard time, and I reached out to my mom. I was looking to get some, like, you know, some dopamine and serotonin. And I was like, Mom, what did I used to like when I was a kid? And I had her send me a list because I couldn't fully remember.
Wow.
And I started doing those things. I wrote them down. I literally like ordered all these art easels, and I started painting. And now, like, for every birthday for most of my friends, I'll paint them something. And it gives me like a little bit of joy, but I'm also like implementing that into the real world too, and gifting my gift to someone else, which is a beautiful thing.
Wow, sick. I mean, you were on it earlier asking those questions to your mom. That's very cool. Yeah. I mean, it's also never too late to start. So,
Yeah.
Excited to hear about how you guys think about this topic at home, and let us know how you like this discussion. Okay, we gotta work on our outros.
Yeah, wait, hold on. Let's do the closing again. Okay, so truly ask yourself, if you embraced all of your interests, what would your life look like?
Right.
Chaotic, probably, but like, or maybe not. Maybe you'd be really happy.
Yes. What would me with 10 times the agency do? And then just do that.
Well,
Put yourself.
I don't know. I mean, it's also interesting too. Like, my best childhood friend, he lost his job. It sucks. He lost his job. He got laid off in, I think, December or January, and he has spent the last 5 months cruising. He was lucky enough to have enough savings, and he was smart about it, but he traveled. He went to all the places he wanted to be.
Miami.
He came to Miami with us. He explored new things he's never done, did shows he's never done, saw artists he's never done. but he also like went to the beach in his hometown, right? And he just did all these things that he's always wanted to do that he didn't have enough time to do because he was always working. And that's not to say we're always going to get that experience. Like, I know I lost my job 3 years ago before I moved to New York. And I got in my Jeep and I went on a road trip around the whole country because that's something I'd always wanted to do. And I think, like you said, it's time management. If you see an opportunity, a window, like, take it and go for it.
Embrace the change.
Yeah.
And you never know what will come out of it. No. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that's a great note to end on. We still gotta work on our outros, but I think that was a really inspirational one. So, hope you guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you all for listening, and see you on the next one.
Woohoo!
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.